Thank you. Good. So, like my colleague Lionel announced, it is my job now to get into the end or towards the end, to the closing of the days, and I would like to take the time a bit for 1 hour, maximum 1 hour. We will have a bit less than 1 hour to still discuss at program level. We've heard yesterday and today, we've heard about and through the different presentation, through the different parallel sessions, and even if you had the time to look in our program review report that we published yesterday, we've heard about achievements, everything we do on research and innovation in the partnership, of course. We do not claim that everything is done by us, but still, if we talk about the EU added value, I think this is here. However, like we decided to put in the agenda, we have still challenges on research and innovation. And of course, we cannot talk about challenges, we cannot talk about achievements without looking into the future. And I think we will also like to discuss about the way forward. And I have the pleasure to have with me for these discussions, for this discussion today, again, the different representatives of the different members of our joint undertaking. And I would like to start with Mrs. Hélène Chraye. I think she's with us today. Thank you very much for being with us, Hélène. She was the head of unit for clean energy transition until yesterday. And I really count on your opinion today. And she will stay with us because I think she's important for the sector. And she will continue to advise us on mission innovation. So she will stay as an advisor on mission innovation. Hello, Hélène. Welcome. Then I will have with us Mr. Luigi Crema. And thank you again for being with us, Luigi. I know how important it is for you to take the time to be with us, and appreciate it for staying with us. President of Hydrogen Europe Research. Hello, Luigi.
Hello, good afternoon.
And I have also from the Hydrogen Europe, the Chief Technology and Market Officer. I hope this is your current role. Stephen Jackson, Mr. Stephen Jackson.
Yes, hello, and also Deputy
Hello
CEO of
and
Hydrogen
welcome.
Europe.
I know that you are also heading the innovation from the side of the Hydrogen Europe, so that's why I really count also on your opinion today. We were normally inviting also for a broader view of the scientific community opinion. We were also inviting Mr. Nils Røkke, President, European Energy Research Alliance. Unfortunately, he's not yet with us. So I would prefer, and I hope you could agree with me, that we start discussing and hopefully he will join us. We are trying to find him. Good. So really, thank you very much for being with me today. I will try to not to put difficult questions to you, but it's gonna be about research and innovation, and like I said, challenges and way forward. I would like to go to you, Hélène, and to ask you, how do you see the 15 years of the joint undertaking of working in partnership, commission, working in partnership with the industry and with the research, through the results, through the feedback into policies, through the development of the technologies that are needed for the market to be developed. How do you see the work of the partnership?
Thank you, Mirela, and good afternoon to all. So a kind of building on my, since today, past experience. So we had a long cooperation with industry on hydrogen, and it's always amazing to see how something which was considered as just a hobby at that time has now developed in one of the main policy for the EU energy policy. That's a big success which owes a lot to the joint undertaking. Having said that, I would like also to mention that, for instance, if I look at the side of the supply, we have strongly developed, thanks to the industry, increased the capacity of the supply and locally, domestically. On the side of the demand, just to quote that almost 20% of all fuel cell vehicles in the EU, as well as the hydrogen refueling stations, come from the clean hydrogen GU funding and its predecessors, of course. Apart from that, the GU was at the origin of a novel concept, which is the hydrogen valleys, which is built with the private stakeholders. And 3 are already being funded. This concept has been expanding to the rest of the world through mission innovation. So it's really a big success. And recently, since 2 or 3 years, we are now trying to develop the synergies with the national sites and the national programs. So cooperation of this joint undertaking, not only with other partnerships, but also with co-funded and especially with the set plan. It's a bit sad that Nils Røkke is not here because his entity is part of the set plan. And just beginning of the week, there was a presidency conference where we presented the communication on revamping of the set plan, including the transfer of the EERA pilot on green hydrogen into an implementation working group of the set plan, with a requirement, a very strong requirement, to work in synergy with the GU. So to have a kind of alliance between the national side, the EU side, and the industry. This is extremely important. And when I say the industry, I include, of course, the research and innovation part with private side, let's say. I stop here. I don't want to be too long. I stop here.
Thank you. I think you've already mentioned a few of the, if I can say, challenges we faced, but also achievements from the GU side, and how important was the partnership between the public side and the private side in indeed starting creating the supply, the demand, but even these concepts of the valleys, just to mention few things. Meanwhile, Nils joined us, Mr. Røkke joined us. Welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. Happy to have you all. Now, I would put the same question to you, Luigi. How do you see the role of the GU in the research and innovation? How important is that in the last 15 years, everything we've done, and how it is important that research and innovation on such important sector like hydrogen is done in a partnership between the public and the private?
Thank you, Mirela. Good afternoon, all. Yes, I think the 3 different programs, including the new one on the Clean Hydrogen Partnership, but even considering FCH 1 and 2 JUs, have worked, as I'm used to say, in a circular approach with different objectives, each one. We started on 2007, starting to develop mostly building blocks, but even in the first program, several important results was achieved. The program was able to deploy 150 light-duty vehicles, 45 buses, 20 hydrogen refueling stations, the electrolyzers going to the scale of 100 kilowatts. At that time, it was something seen as extraordinary for the sector, considering that scaling up at that time was even happening with an increase at 2 ciphers. With more than 10% increase each time and each project. So then we had the second program, the FCH2JU, where numbers started to increase again of the order of magnitude, for example, close to 2,000 light-duty vehicles deployed, additional 55 buses, 31 trucks, more than 100 hydrogen refueling stations. So at each step, combining the scaling up with the development of building blocks from lower TRL side. So research and the industry at the same time and with a strategic common approach, we're collaborating to increase and strengthen the technologies, reducing costs, improving performances, and at the same time even scaling up and deploying to the market initial solutions and technologies. In FCH2, we deployed close to 3,000 micro code generating units, just to make another example. And just to pin touch some of the further scaling up and opportunities we are trying to boost in the Clean Hydrogen Partnership. Now hydrogen valleys are going to a new dimension. Initially, we were talking on relevant dimension on a regional scale, but now we have 2 cross-border hydrogen valleys started up that are comprising, for example, one more than 7 million inhabitants involved and 80,000 square meters has hydrogen valley. This is just a small market for hydrogen, but beyond the regional scale. And so even facing novel challenges, for example, trading of hydrogen cross-border, improving standards and permittings, as well as, of course, collecting lessons learned at the bigger scale. And this could even create confidence on the projects to be deployed at the real scale and the real energy market. On the other and opposite side to this, we started even strategic research challenges. So long-term perspective, low TRL research activities that could have indeed a deeper impact on the future European technologies in the maybe in a longer future, but creating relevant knowledge, relevant even development of further and new technologies. That model should be taken into consideration even for the future. As a whole, so the JU allowed to create a strong integrated community in between public and private. Maybe even Stephen can dig a bit more on this. For each euro of the public side, there was a considerable added value from the private side. So the European funding, the public funding was able to unlock even a multiplier on private investment. And even last but not least, to create a strong community of researchers and innovators across Europe that started to place as a one-stop shop for hydrogen, addressing key challenges and even this should be continued to give opportunities even to newcomers. In Hydrogen Europe research in the last 4 years, just to make an example, we moved from 80 members to 150 members confirmed today. So I think these are only some of the examples of the really, really high number of success stories that are part of these 3 programs.
Thank you very much, Luigi, for your kind words about the important role that was playing by the G in the last 15 years. Stephen, we would also like to hear from you for the same question. How do you see the last 15 years and the role of working in partnership for your industry?
Well, I think I will echo very much what our other speakers have been saying. I think I can only value the partnership that we have had, and I think that this has been a tremendous journey. When we started off in 2007, we were very much technology based. We had quite small associations. Value chain was not established, and we started sort of bit by bit. And as the different iterations of the joint undertaking have come, well, our value chains, our European value chains, have developed. And as a result, our associations have grown quite tremendously. I mean, we were talking at the time, we were about 50 members. Now we're 500. And so that kind of gives you an idea of which way the value chain has been going. But I think, importantly, the joint undertaking is at the heart of hydrogen policy here in Europe. Let's be very clear about this. Without the joint undertaking, we would not have hydrogen as one of the key technologies for the Green Deal and the decarbonization of the European continent. And I firmly believe that it is that early investment on both public and private side that have enabled us to put hydrogen as one of those key technologies. So obviously now, I mean, there have been different iterations. We started very much with early stage technologies, then the first markets, for example, for different electrolysis technology, HRSs. I think now, as was mentioned, we're looking at really sort of ecosystem development in the context of notably hydrogen valleys. But there are certain other key technologies which we have to develop, and we have to stay on this course. I mean, we must not be content, meaning that, okay, we have invested 15 years ago, but we have to go on doing so, because I think what has changed quite a bit is the global context, and we're no longer alone. And if we are to reap the benefits, have a good return on investment on our early investments, we need to continue investing. That would be really quite a strong message I would have, but I imagine you will ask more questions on sort of where we're going.
Indeed, thank you very much, Stephen, and I'm really happy to hear that from you and as a representative of our industry. Now to you, Nils. What would be also your view on that, on the role of working in partnership? And I would like you to look from the angle of the member states, and what Hélène was hinting from the set plan view, the strategic energy technology plan, working with the member states, but also from your as a representative of the alliance of the European Energy Research Alliance. And finally, why not as a chair of our stakeholder group?
So thank you. I'm terribly sorry for being late. I hope you can hear me well. Excellent. So yes, I'm representing the European Energy Research Alliance, which is one of the cornerstones of the set plan. And in EERA, we also have a joint program on hydrogen and fuel cells, which to a great degree cooperates with Hydrogen Europe Research. I mean, if you look to the members, we are almost the same people in Hydrogen Europe Research, more people there than and the EERA joint program. And I think that's a fruitful way of working. Because we also have all the cross-cutting activities in EERA, which we have 18 joint programs. So as we know, hydrogen is such a great cross-cutting agent, so to speak, in the energy system and in the larger energy system. And thus, I see this cooperation working out very well in EERA. Now, Hélène was also alluding to this issue with the revamped set plan and the temporary working group, which we hope will become IVG sometime. And what does that do? I mean, what does EERA do? EERA is connecting the set plan countries and in our joint programs. And that's maybe one thing which has been lacking is the mobilization of the set plan countries towards the hydrogen economy at large. And this is the link which we can provide through this new IVG to come. And I think that is a very useful step, because if we're talking about lifting the hydrogen economy, we cannot just rely upon the Commission fixing all of this through the vehicles available. We know that is the top of the iceberg in many ways in terms of investment into the hydrogen economy. So I think that is something we will follow very closely, and also the cross-sectorial issues. And I think, Stephen, you stole my point about this. What would it be without the JU? How would the environment look like in Europe if we didn't have the joint undertaking? Just think about how the activities has developed over the year. Focus changing constantly, and also bridging the gap in hard times, because I think hydrogen now is very much need to have, whereas before there were many options which you could look into, and many were talking about this is just a false start. There's no doubt that this is bridge the road between these statements and thinking that now we see that it's so urgent to get this rolling for Europe to reach its targets.
Thank you very much, Nils, for that. And if I could go back to you, now I'll start the other way, in the other way order. If I could go back to you, by thanking to all of you for agreeing, like we also heard yesterday in the opening statements, that indeed we need to continue to work in a partnership when we do research and innovation on hydrogen in Europe. That I'm very happy to hear from all of you. But then, what in your opinion, Nils, will be still the challenges? Because I think we still have a lot of challenges, and not necessarily by 2030, because that we know very well they are in our SRIA, we know we have the budget to do them, but beyond 2030, where would you see still the GU, and what would be the challenges for that work, for that partnership, also from your alliance somehow and member states view?
So what will drive this is if you go from the top view, it's really the market and the offtake. And as have been discussed, there's a mismatch between what is there in terms of announced projects to produce and those announced for offtake, which will use hydrogen and hydrogen derivatives. So that is something we really need to work on. How can we satisfy the needs which are in the market now and in the future for hydrogen? And this has been a dynamic thing. I mean, it used to be a lot of activities on transportation, whereas you also see now the industrial drive for hydrogen and decarbonized carriers, also for new industrial processes, for instance, in metal production. And then we must not forget what Luigi was saying about the long-term research and innovation as an element in this. I mean, how are we going to make these new processes work without having the low TRL type of activities through the strategic directions, and to have a neutral view on this? And it may seem as there is a kind of gap between what I say, that you need to have the market and maturing the market, and the more fundamental research, but this is actually not a conflict. I mean, some of these activities, they also need to have basic research to actually go forward. So I think getting this balance right is really key for us.
Mm-hmm.
But I have no doubt that for the hydrogen economy to thrive and to deliver on its promises and prospects, we really need to develop a functioning market and projects which go forward.
Thank you. And I'll build on what you just said, Nils, and I'll go to Luigi now, indeed, to pick up on the long-term research. And then I'll go to the market to Stephen in a moment. But to talk about the long-term research, Luigi, because indeed we have put now a considerable investment, public, of course, through the grants, in these strategic research challenges. We know these strategic research challenges will bring results at the end of this GU, at the end of this partnership. How do you see that exploited further after 2030?
Yeah, this is a 1 million question. Yes, Mirela. I think this is important indeed to dig into this, because when low TRL research is supported, low TRL research is opening new views on novel technologies and solutions, and these new views can be the starting point of developing further technologies of the next generation, and this further development can keep the industrial competitiveness into the market. These loops should become even possibly ideally faster to be moved forward. Just to make an example, we supported in the program of the Clean Hydrogen Partnership the degradation, investigation on the degradation of electrolyzers and fuel cells. So we are starting from technologies that performed already into relevant scales, in the full scale, in the market, to dig on the degradation mechanism. So we are doing a low TRL research to understand how polymers, how membranes, how catalysts are changing, degrading the behaviors of the technology. So we are only developing knowledge on this, not developing a novel technology solution. But this knowledge in the second step could enable the development of novel materials and novel components and novel technologies to keep the European electrolysis industry in the forefront of others. And in the global landscape, today, there's an increasing support to research, to demo, to deployment all over the world. And so the competition is starting to become more tough from particularly US and China. They are supporting two different typologies of hubs, but both of them are creating these large hubs with $1 billion support. And on the other side, and even giving a look back on the last years, in Europe, we have this added value of working together between research and industry. It was not easy to become at the point we are today, because in the past years, I participated to several discussions between research and industry where we were not understanding each other. Industry was looking 5-10 years ago to support more innovation, more demo, more deployment, scaling up. And research was saying, no, we want to only push for low TRLs. We were very distant so far at a certain time of the past programs. But today, I think we are in the ideal phase of understanding each other and see how in the future this collaboration could even strengthen more and being helpful, particularly from research to industry, to accelerate and to innovate faster. So I'm convinced that the future deployment of the low TRL research, like the strategic research challenges, just in one message, could be done if we will try to keep together these two communities and have an ideal transfer of knowledge into value.
Thank you. I think it makes total sense that we get the knowledge and then we get into the new products after 2030. Why not? I mean, we should continue to improve the technology. Stephen, back to you. Do you have any comment on what just Luigi said? Do you get better aligned now on what are the needs on a longer term on research than you did before? So that would be the first question. And the second, building on what Nils said, do you see a role for us to play on matching what Nils said, the market and the off-takers need? Do you see the role for research and innovation? Because we do now try with these innovative business models of valleys, try to solve this chicken and egg problem somehow. But do you see any other role in the future? Because of course we cannot continue supporting valleys for 30 years. I'm exaggerating, of course, but do you see, so the two aspects, the longer term research and your alignment with the research, and again the role of a partnership or working in a partnership in facilitating, speeding up the market?
Yeah, thank you, Mirela. Well, I think to your first point, I can only echo what Luigi said, and I think we work very well in tandem, but with research, but also with our public partners and together with the program office. And I think we're really very much sort of implementing a partnership together, and that's the way we're going about it. And I think we do have a relatively common understanding, meaning that, yes, I mean, we represent industry and our objective now is profitability. I mean, and in order to reach that, we need to deploy, increase scale, and so forth and so forth. And that's absolutely crucial because what you need to understand is that many of our companies have negative cash flows. I mean, it has to get into positive at some point. So the technologies that we have developed, those need to penetrate the market. And that's what we're focused on, really. But then in the face of, yes, global competition and where we're going sort of medium long term, we need to think about this sort of medium long term business development. And therefore, it would be short sighted just to think about immediate profitability. And so basically looking into long-term research is also looking into long-term profitability and competitiveness of our European industry. So that's clearly the vision we have and that we share together with research. Then to your second point on your role on bridging the gap between technology and market and using the valleys as an example. I mean, it's safe to say that, and it's very positive. I mean, we used to be, let's put it this way, we used to be a very research-centric ecosystem. And that's what we did. And I think it's only natural now, as our sector does gradually deploy, that maybe the role and responsibility of the program office changes accordingly. And that, yes, I do think that, I mean, obviously the valleys is very important, but we could also potentially look into the deployment of other technologies across other corridors in, for example, HRS network, infrastructure network, and bringing all the pieces of the puzzle together. So most likely moving forward, the program office and the partnership will keep its initial raison d'etre, which is technology, but play a bigger part in deployment and rollout of infrastructure and bringing together demand and supply and demand on the ground. So to your question, I would say yes.
Thank you. And I'm coming back to you now. Also, Hélène, and I would mention few things very close to your heart, as much as I understood them. Because somehow yesterday, Rosalinde van der Vlies in her introduction mentioned them, and the role of the partnership in building the skills, in the reskills, in the reskilling of the people, in the sustainability and circularity by design. And of course, we heard already in the competitiveness and keeping the EU leadership in hydrogen technologies. So how would you see that? Would you see that role to be kept by working in this partnership, which will be in addition to those things that Rosalinde mentioned them yesterday, which would be, in your opinion, other challenges for this joint undertaking?
Thank you, Mirela. It's a nice question. I would not even say 1 million, but 1 billion euros for that. First of all, I would recap that a GU is a place where we discuss with the private side, both the industry and the research. And you know that I strongly believe in collective intelligence, which is typical for human beings, by the way. And this has led us to better understand the industry, I hope so, and the research to better understand the industry and vice versa, and all of them maybe to grasp some vision that we have in the EU for a longer term. Because our role is not to give money, our role is to pave the way for the future. And more important than money, it is impact. If I look at the impact of the GU, it has been extremely high and substantial along the years. So the fact that we, let's say, explain some vision in the long term and we ask to adjust the work of the GU to these visions, it also means that it provides the industry and the research with more clarity for their future investment decisions. Because as Stefan said, and I like it very much, it will be short-sighted to only look at the short-term profitability. It's legitimate for the industry to earn money. It's legitimate for the research to do research on anything it wants, but it's also needed that they associate to provide us with the means to realize our vision in the EU. And on this vision, there are a few things which are extremely important, and Rosalinde reminded them. The first one is that the cost of the transition towards clean energy is extremely high for the resources of the planet. And if we don't work now on substitution or on circularity, recycling, and all that, we are going to provoke conflicts. Simple as that, because the cherry picking in many materials is already done. So we have to invest more, we have to dig more, and this will create more impact on environment and more reactions from the societies around and needing more trade. I mean, all that is a kind of vicious circle. This is a long-term challenge. It's not a challenge for the next 2 years, clearly, and the Critical Raw Material Act is indeed focusing on finding the resources of the EU. But in the longer run, this is extremely worrying, and we see a lot of conflicts now nourished by this pressure on resources, whether it's water, whether it's minerals, whether it's metals, or even intermediate products. So the GU has a role because it is now inputting or placing the condition of circularity by design in relevant topics. And I'm very happy of that, you know it, but this is a strong alliance between research and industry and us. The second point is that the other challenge is indeed competitiveness. And here, the EU is a very strange animal because we always have to balance between protecting our industries, ensuring their competitiveness on one hand, and on second hand, to respect our values, which are that we work for the people. And we have also to help the rest of the world, not to impose anything, but to help. So it's very difficult to find the right balance. And very often we face critics on that. But this idea of value is very important because it makes the EU as a reference. And the third point, which is for me very important, is that, and maybe it is also the role of the GU, this is the standardization. This is the next challenge. I remember the first time I worked for the Commission, it was on intermodal transport. And I faced a very critical issue, is that the standardization of containers was made by the US according to their infrastructure and not by us. And we faced enormous infrastructure problems in carrying containers and in feeding containers. And we invented the swap bodies for that reason, but they cannot be very useful for international trade. So I took the lesson that every time there is a new technology, we should at the same moment begin to do the certification and standardization and show our muscles as the EU. That's very important for our industry. It is providing with the conditions. And of course, the fourth one is skills. And in the EU, we have the chance to have a lot of harmonization on skills. I think, to be honest, that I see some universities much more consistent between two EU countries than they are between, let's say, Oregon and Maine, for instance. So not to criticize any US country, but we have a single acceptance policy, which is very important. So to sum up, we are trying to also get the feedback of the industry and the research on what we need as the framework for the industry to be more competitive. And sometimes it is even more important than the amount of money and the legislation itself. But that is more a personal view. But the GU is providing input on that. It's providing work on that. We will develop the academy, the Hydrogen Academy, according really to the needs of the industry. This is a very important message of the NZIA. And we have to strongly support that. I've been long sorry.
No, and I think you've touched many other points I wanted to touch myself. So really, thank you very, very much for all these insights and the mention of the standardization, which indeed it's another point where even the Alliance see our contribution through pre-normative research. So if, because we are getting closer to the end, so we only have 4 or 5 minutes, so let's take 1 minute each of you, and I'll go again the other way around and start with you, Hélène. If you will have to pick one of the challenges that we, from the challenges we heard, and if you will have to pick one of them, which one would you like to be solved tomorrow?
There are many, but the main challenges maybe to be represented is the integration of hydrogen into the energy system, meaning not to limit to fuel for some sectors, but to see the hydrogen as a part of the energy system for storing renewable energy, for offering local solutions, and for being an actor by itself, an enabler. I would say let's develop more the role of hydrogen and stop limiting it to some sectors.
Okay, thank you. Nils, if you will select a challenge, which one would you say, let's work on it tomorrow?
Maybe not a bomb coming from EERA, but I think we need to secure the excellence of the European ecosystem along the value chain, and not to forget then the research element in that as being key in terms of being competitive also on a longer scale. Noticing, for instance, China increased their share of electrolyzer production from 10 to 30% over the last 2 years. This is a challenge, and we need to stand up to that.
Yeah, thank you. Luigi, what would be the one you would like to be solved tomorrow, if we could, of course?
Thank you, Mirela. Yes, I'm much in line with the comment from Hélène to break the silos, because in the energy transition, of course, hydrogen will be the complementary element to have at the end the best total cost of investment for the energy transition. So apart from, of course, boosting the electrification. Then taking a few words from the research point of view, of course, we would like to support substantially industry, but even European policies like the Critical Raw Materials Act and the Net Zero Industrial Act in strengthen the position of European industries in the future, even with actions long-lasting with perspective to work for even 20 years to so from research reduce critical raw materials in the technologies, so creating novel solutions. We have started to even propose these topics inside the Clean Hydrogen Partnership, and we have seen a really high number of excellent ideas proposed from the research stakeholders on this, novel ideas. Then on the other side, even work on the reuse, recycling, eco-design of the technologies that is a complementary action that research could support as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Luigi. Last but not least, you, Stephen. what would be from you, from the industry? I mean, if you will have to pick a challenge, what would be the one you will like to be solved tomorrow, if possible?
Well, I think if possible, I would take it at the moment now. And so therefore, I would want to reap the benefits of early EU investments into our technologies. And therefore, I would say the coherence of the EU industrial policy, that we manage to safeguard European interests and market share, whether it be within the European Union, but also globally. That I think we need to start positioning ourselves and our industry a bit more globally, and making sure that we can penetrate different markets externally. And all of this, as I said, in order to really reap the benefits of our early investments. I think it is very important. I think that is what Hélène said, and I couldn't agree more, is that, I mean, our ambition is not to be subsidized for long-term duration. I mean, we need to fly with our own wings also, and therefore it's important that we do protect market share in Europe and increase market share more globally in order to reap the benefits, as I said. And I think that will benefit our citizens throughout the board.
Thank you. Thank you very much to all of you. I think we could continue discussing a long time, and I as you know, I have more things to discuss, but the time is never enough for discussing such things. But luckily, we have the GU to continue to discuss such things between ourselves, and we have it at least for several years. So I really hope we will take that opportunity and continue to discuss these things. One of the opportunities is also next week in the Hydrogen Week. We will have a session dedicated also to the partnership, to the benefits, to the way forward. So I really look forward again to discuss there on Wednesday afternoon on this. And again, thank you very much to all four of you. Look forward to continue working together, and really look forward to see you next week in Brussels in person, continue to discuss on these aspects. Thank you very much.
Thank you.